Hey, good morning, guys. I'm back here at Panzer. It's turn one, but I thought the Russians started moving and triggered that Overwatch fire we talked about, and I thought I'd use it as a quick opportunity to show you how combat works, just so you have a better understanding of the mechanics of the system. But here's what happened. Germans won initiative, and they sequenced it in such a way that it would force the Russians to move first. So the Russians are up here. They had been lined up, remember, across this hex line, and they started moving out and dispersing their units. To jump ahead a little bit, the idea had been for these German Panthers to hold their Overwatch fire and wait until the truck unit, which is unarmored but filled up with infantry units, these guys, they're waiting for them to come into the Overwatch hex, and they would unload on the trucks. But as it turns out, these trucks are one movement point short to get over to this to the hex that triggered the Overwatch. And just so you can see how these operate, get in on this truck a little bit. That 4W means the W means it's a wheeled vehicle. 4 means in open terrain it can move 4 hexes. So it's and that's where it stood right now. It's moved 4 hexes and it can't move any farther. This 8 means that once it's on, starts its move and runs a whole movement a movement sequence on the path, it can move 8 hexes. And the 12 is what it can move on that paved road that we looked at. But so the truck did not trigger Overwatch fire, which is what the Germans were holding off for. I'm cheating a little bit because technically what I did was the T-34s moved first to try and draw the Overwatch fire. It didn't trigger it. The Germans didn't take the bait. Then I moved the Su-100s, the tank hunter guns. Those didn't draw any fires. Then I moved the truck, and it turned out that, you know, if the trucks had enough movement, that would have drawn Overwatch fire. But I'm going to reverse it a little bit, and I'm going to say that was a player error. But the Germans would have figured out. They would know that. I should have known that there wasn't enough truck movement to trigger that Overwatch fire. So I'm going to let these guys go fire their Overwatch on what would be their next viable target, which is their biggest threat, and that is these Su-100 tank hunters that we talked about. Okay, so these guys, if you draw down, have just moved, and now it's triggering Overwatch fire from these. There's 3 Panthers in this square. And I'm going to show you how it works. So the first thing you do, let me come out a little bit, give you a better angle. First thing you have to do is determine range, and in this case we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 hexes to these. There's 2 Su-100s in here, okay? 13 hexes to fire at those guys. So what you do is you consult the Panther card, and this area up here involves their firing power. We're firing their 75mm armor penetrating gun. You can roll to fire special ammunition, which is much more powerful. For example, here at point blank range, their 75mm gun penetrates 32mm of armor. This special round would penetrate 45. But what happens is you have to roll to see if it's available on the tank. If you had rounds of it for this mission, you can roll any time to try that. But if you fail the roll, which is fairly likely, I think it's like a 30% chance that you have the ammunition. So if you fail the roll, then you go ahead and fire your normal gun anyhow, but you're at a disadvantage. It's a -3 penalty. I'll show you on the chart. So these guys aren't going to take any chances. It's already a fairly long range shot, and they're just going to fire their normal 75mm gun. So what you do is this R represents range, and you go across until you find 13. Point blank is at 4, short range is at 8, medium range is 14 that we can see there. So we're at a 13, and we know that's between short range and medium range. It's a medium range shot. It's above short range, it's less than medium range, so it's right in there. We're shooting medium range. And that means that our penetration score is at 24. See that? 24mm of thickness at medium range. Okay, set him aside for a second, and I'll bring out one of the combat charts, of which there's many. And what you do is you look at this armor penetration hit chart. P is for point blank range, S is for short, M is for medium, which is where we're at. you come down, you cross-reference at this 0 line. This is the baseline where before you apply any positive modifiers or negative modifiers, this is where you start. And so for us, we're at 50. It's a 50% chance that they can hit. Then what you do is you come over here and you just see, are there any modifiers we need to take into effect? Target size, in this case, it's not a particularly large tank, so there's no modifier. The tanks are moving, those SU-100s are moving, the tank hunters. So there's a -2 modifier to the Germans' roll. If they're in cover, there's modifiers. There's various modifiers if you're damaged and such like that. Here's the other one. We're firing out of Overwatch. That gives us another -1. So now we're at -2 because the Russian SU-100s are moving. And we're at -1 because I'm firing out of Overwatch, which, you know, means it's kind of a reactive fire. So, excuse me, I'm on the wrong chart. We come here, medium. We started at 0, 50%. Now we go -1 for Overwatch, -2 for movement. So we need, it's a 35% chance that we hit. We need to roll a 35 or less. So here I'm rolling. Oops. The black dice is going to be 10s. And we get a, oh, nice shot. We get an 18%. That's under 35, so that means that's a hit, which is good. So I can show you how the hit works. So now what we do is we look at the hit location, and we're going to determine if we hit the turret front, turret side, turret rear, or if we hit somewhere in the hull, or if we hit a track or a deck. And those are all going to have different armor consequences. And like we saw in the last game, if you knock out the track, that SU-100 is not going to be able to move the rest of the game, which would be kind of nice, you know, because they're trying to get to the city. So we roll again. I roll a 6. So we cross-reference. Oh, we're doing a front side shot. Take you back to the tank. See how we're coming into this hex. The front hex would be here. This is a front side shot, that's a front rear, that's a rear, and so forth. So we look at the front side chart. We rolled a 6, and so we come across, here's 6. That means it's a hull front shot. Let me see what that asterisk means. So the hull front would give, if it was in a hull down position, there'd be some bonuses, but it's not. So we hit the hull front. Now what we do, this looks more complicated than it is, because once you do it a couple times, it becomes second nature. But it's what gives the game its intense realism, is that you're cross-referencing all these different factors, and these are all deeply historically researched and accurate. So now what we do is we come here, we're at the SU-100 card, data card. See if there's enough light for you to see that. And we come across, and we come down here to the defensive table, and we start looking, is it a level shot? It was the shot from below or above. In this case, there was no one was on a hill. It's a straight level shot. We come over here into the area where it's a front side angle, and we look at, what do we say we hit, by the way? Hull front. We look over here at hull front, and we see that the armor in the hull front at that angle is 21 millimeters. So now, if you recall, if we come back to the Panthers, at this medium range shot, we're penetrating 24 millimeters of thickness. So 24 millimeter penetration against 21 millimeters of armor. We penetrated. That means that we've hit the truck, or hit the SU-100. We roll a 3, and we look over here back at the German card, and we say for armor penetration, if we roll a 3, we're right here in damage. So a 1 would be no damage. 2 through 4 means that there's damage. 5 through 8 means it's knocked out, and 9 through 10 means it's brewed up. So damaged is not a good, but not a, you know, devastating factor for this SU-100. And I'm going to apply a damage counter. It means that it's going to be firing and moving at a penalty from here on out. Something's wrong with the tank. And we need to roll to see if the crew is going to bail out because it was hit. And it's a 97, and I'm not going to show you the chart, but just trust me, they're fine. So that's the sequence. I'm not going to take you through all of them, but the Panthers get 2 more shots. One thing you do, which is kind of a nice thing I should have kind of walked through with you, before you fire, I have 3 Panthers firing. I have to declare which guys they're firing on before they shot. So if I only took one shot against this damaged SU-100, if I was going to shoot on him again, which I should have, I needed to say beforehand, you know, all three are shooting on this SU-100, or two of them are, whatever it is. So here on out, I'm going to fire, the last two shots are going to be on the SU-100 that's on the bottom, that's undamaged, and I'll let you know how that goes. But just wanted to give you a peek of damage, or the combat sequence, and I'll tune you back in here in a couple of rounds and show you how the battle's progressing. Talk to you soon.